This is the second video in a series on wildflowers of KwaZulu-Natal. This is species 51 to 100 of approximately 300 that I will eventually do. The first plant is from the Cucurbitaceae, which is the cucumber family. It is called Coccinea Romania. It has fruits that are green when they are unripe, turning a very bright scarlet red color when they are ripe. Apparently this one is edible, but one has to be very cautious with cucumbers. A lot of members of the family are extremely toxic and should not be eaten. From the Commelinaceae is the Slender Day Flower or Widow's Tears, Commelina erecta. What's interesting about this plant is that it has this sort of keel-shaped bract at the base, and there is this little drop of dew inside this bract, and you can actually use it as eye drops. You can squeeze it into your eye to clear your eye of any debris. So that's the Slender Day Flower or Widow's Tears, Commelina erecta. In the same family is the yellow Commelina africana, or the common yellow Commelina. These are both found in disturbed areas, and they're very, very common plants. This is another member of the Nectaginaceae. We mentioned Boravia diffusa in the first part of the series. The Nectaginaceae is the Bougainvillea family. This particular plant is Comicopus pentandrus, or the common 4 o'clock plant. A number of plants from this group are called 4 o'clock plants because they tend to flower at that time. From the Malvasi is Caucasus Splenifolius. This plant, belonging to the hibiscus family, can be used to make cordage, as can many other hibiscus family members. In fact, hibiscus plants are used for making cotton. From the Crastulaceae, which is a succulent family, we have pig's ears, Cotyledon orbiculata. The one on the right, I believe, is pig's ears. The one on the left, the plant on the left, I'm not certain of the identification, but it is obviously related. From the Amaryllidaceae, we have Macoan's crinum, Crinum macoani, which is a very pretty plant that is found in KwaZulu-Natal. Very striking flowers when they flower. And of course the typical monocotyledonous strap-like leaves. From the Iridaceae are the falling stars, Crocosmia aurea. These are typically found on the edges of trees in forests, sort of shaded areas in KwaZulu-Natal. From the Fabaceae we have the rattlepod family, Crotilleria, and this is Crotilleria Libernifolia. The rattlepods are called this name because the pods have loose seeds in them, so that when one shakes them they have a rattling kind of sound. This particular rattlepod species, Crotilleria natalitia, has sort of reddish flowers when they are developing, and then they become yellow, and or rather when they get older they are reddish, and it has a typical standard and kill petal conformation of the Crotillerias and the 3 leaflets or trifoliate compound leaves, and it is called the pioneer rattlepod. From the Convolvulaceae, which is the morning glory family, we have this really interesting plant which is a pest around the world. It's called Cascata Campestris, which is field or golden dodder. It's a plant that is parasitic on a lot of the grain plants of the grass family Gramineae, so it's quite a pest plant. From the Apocynaceae is Sanankum Ellipticum. It's a very unobtrusive plant with very tiny flowers. You can see a little beetle sitting on the one flower there, and typical of the family, it has kind of like this crown-like ring of petals. From the sedge family, we have a golden sedge, Cyprus spherocephalus. At least that's what I think it is. It has is usually a golden color, but I think there are white varieties. And many different kinds of sedges, of course. This is just one of many. In the grape family, we have the normal grape species of the genus Vitis. We have also Roycissus and Cissus, which are two grape genera. And then we have Cyphostemma, which is these larger grape plants which have a very succulent stem, and they often form creeping branches. This, I believe, might be Cyphostemma flaviflorum, but I stand to be corrected. Then also from the same genus is Cyphostemma Hyperlucum, Cyphostemma schlechteri, and Cyphostemma natalithium. These were quite difficult to identify, and I'm not 100% certain of the species, but I tried my best with the resources I had. This is called the overlooked Certorchis, this plant. It is from the orchid family, Orchidaceae, and it was found in the sand forests of KwaZulu-Natal. The species name is Certorchis pretermissa. From the Euphorbiaceae, which is generally a succulent family with a milky latex and often very toxic latex, is the wild hop, Delacampia capensis, which has these really unusual bracts on the flowers. Notice the palmate leaf as well. Then from the Solanaceae is the Jimson weed, Datura stramonium. These plants are called Mulpita in Afrikaans. It means crazy pips or seeds, because it produces these tiny little black seeds that when chewed have hallucinogenic effects. But there's a very, very fine line between hallucinogenic and deadly, and I would not recommend anyone experiments with this plant. From the Aizoaceae, we have a Delosperma species. It's a Mesembryanthemum species, very similar to the Carpobrotus that I mentioned in the previous video, which is the wild feikie. Here's a Dicliptra species of the Acanthaceae, ribbonweed. I'm not certain of the specific species here, but very pretty flowers nonetheless. The trailing African daisy from the Asteraceae or daisy family, Dimorphotheca fruticosa, very striking sort of violet center, and that's definitely a landing area for bees. It'll certainly attract bees and direct them there to get the pollen. The dainty green bells are typically found in grasslands. This is Dipcardi viride, and it's from the Hyacinthaceae. I believe it now has changed family to the Asparagaceae. There's been quite a shuffle of plant names, changes in names, changes in families based on new genetic research. From the Malvasi, a family which is the hibiscus family, and it's a large family now that's encompassed a lot of other families, including the Sterculiaceae or star chestnut family. We have the Natal wild pear, Dombea cymosa, which has been put into the Malvasi now from the Sterculiaceae. The Kai apple, Doviolus caffra, is an edible fruit. It has thorns, large spines or thorns on the stem, and it is from the Salicaceae, which is the spikethorn family. Then the Asparagaceae, formerly the Dracaenaceae, is this plant, large-leaved dragon tree or Dracaena litriformis. They are called dragon trees because they have a red sap, most species anyway, and they are found in many parts of Africa, in the Canary Islands, also on the Arabian Peninsula. Not the same species, different species of course, but very distinctive trees. So dragon's blood trees. Dracaena litriformis, large-leaved dragon tree. From the Apocynaceae, we have the Madagascar Jasmine, Dragea floribunda. I think this might also be called the mousy bat fruit, if I'm not mistaken. And it grows typically on fences and sort of over bushes and things like that. It's a climbing, sprawling plant. This is an interesting plant. It resembles young seedlings of some kind of mimosa-like plant, like an acacia or an albizia, but it's actually an Elephantorhiza elephantina. It's from the same family of Fabaceae, but it's a frutescent kind of plant. In other words, it grows these kind of dwarf trees, and the pods will be born right on the ground, which makes it quite distinctive. From the Loranthaceae, which is a parasitic plant family, we have the hairy mistletoe or wood flower, Eryanthemum dragae, which is a hemiparasite. It has haustoria or roots that grow into the host tree, and it will get some of its nutrients from the host tree. These are the flowers that will be used by the plant, obviously, for fertilization, pollination, fertilization, and then to produce the fruits. If you look carefully at the flowers, you'll see their vertical slits. Typically, sunbirds will stick their beaks into those vertical slits, and they'll spring open and flick pollen all over the forehead of the bird, and thereby enable the bird to pollinate other plants. From the Orchidaceae, we have the banana orchid or beetle orchid, Eulophia valvettii. It's a very pretty orchid from grasslands, a terrestrial orchid, and it's quite widespread in southern Africa. And Eulophia as a genus is widespread throughout Africa as well. I've seen species in the Congo. From the Euphorbiaceae, we have one of many tree euphorbias. This is a very distinctive one called the Candelabra Euphorbia, Euphorbia cooperi. All euphorbias have highly toxic milky latex, and they should not be messed with. It's a caustic kind of substance. It literally can blind one, and it also blisters the skin. Also from the Euphorbiaceae is Fire on the Mountain, Euphorbia Cyanothophyre. This is something I found. I suspect it might be an introduced plant. I'm not sure, but there are some introduced Euphorbia species that occur in southern Africa. From the morning glory family is the slender dwarf morning glory, Evolvulus alsinoides, which you can see pictured here. It's a delicate little morning glory, and typical of the family. It has blue flowers. Most members of the family either have blue to sort of purple flowers to white. So those are the main colors. This is an interesting grass-like plant, although it's not a grass. It belongs to the Flagellariaceae, and it is a plant that is able to climb. It has tendrils or curling tips at the leaf, which act as tendrils, and it's called the climbing bamboo, Flagellaria guineensis. It's found throughout tropical Africa. The coastal plain yellow tops of the Asteraceae, Flaveria bidentis, are pretty common in KwaZulu-Natal. You find them along roadsides and in kind of thick vegetation in amongst the grass. From the Rubiaceae, we have one of the many gardenia species found in South Africa. This is Gardenia fulkensii, the Transvaal or bushveld gardenia. The Rubiaceae is a family of plants that have opposite leaf arrangements typically, and the leaves are simple, and it often has a milky latex. From the Asteraceae too, this is a Gazania or African daisy, Gazania crepsiana. You typically find them along the beaches in sandy areas. From the Colchicaceae is a very striking and very popular African flame lily called Glorioso Superba. It ranges from this yellow color to a sort of orange or red color, so very striking. It kind of has these waxy long petals, and then obviously the very long stamens that you can see there. From the cucumber family, this is Gerodanthus tomentosus, I believe. I might be mistaken, but if it is, it's an incredibly rare plant. There are not many known in the wild, and I was lucky to find this, but I am not certain. This was found in Tunda Reserve in KwaZulu-Natal. From the Timeliaceae, we have Gnardia Kefla, one of many of the sort of flower head type plants. They have these typical flower heads, which are quite striking and pretty, either yellow or white. From the Apocynaceae, formerly the Asclepiadaceae or milkweed family, we have Gomphocarpus physocarpus. It's a typical tall weed that grows in grasslands, often in wet areas. Malvasi, once again, the cotton family. This is Gossypium herbaceum, and is called typically the Levant cotton, so it produces cotton. Also in the Malvasi are the crossberries, Grewia occidentalis. They're called this because the berries look like they have a cross through them. Wild raisin bush, Grewia microthysa, is also related. All the raisin bushes have these sort of edible to semi-edible sweet fruits. They're tiny, except for the giant raisin, and yeah, they are edible. Then the paintbrush or elephant's tongue, Hemanthus albifloss, I believe this is. Not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure. From the Amaryllidaceae, grows in amongst rock outcrops and has these white flowers that come from the base of very hairy tongue-like leaves. From the Asteraceae, we have Helichrysum Nudifolium, one of the many everlasting species. They are used for a number of species medicinally, for a number of purposes rather, medicinally, and as kind of tobacco, and for treating asthma and various other uses. This is Helichrysum Nudifolium. Another one species, Helichrysum pallidum, which I found in the grasslands, and then Helichrysum cooperi, which is also found in the region. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.